It was in 2016 that the peaceful suburbs of Sydney, Australia, were left reeling from one of the nation's most chilling crimes, a crime that exposed how evil could wear the guise of family. This is the tragic tale of 25-year-old Michelle Leng, a young lady who had traveled to Australia for a better life, only to have her life brutally stripped from her by one who was most trusted. Michelle, whose name in Chinese was Mengmi Leng, lived in Chengdu, China, and was born and raised there. She was an only child to her parents and, after the loss of her father in 2008, became her mother's whole world. Her mother, May, said she was a kind, caring, and vivacious girl. Michelle was always the type of person who was always looking out for others, even when she herself was in trouble. She had always wished to make her mother proud, and so in 2011 she took the courageous step of migrating to Australia to pursue further studies. She studied at the University of Technology Sydney, where she did a business degree, after which she furthered her studies at the Sydney Institute of Interpreting and Translation. Michelle worked part-time to sustain herself and yet continued to remit money to back home to aid her mother. She resided with her aunt, uncle, and cousin at the Campsie suburb in New South Wales. Her relatives in China thought that she was safe and well taken care of by those who cared about her, but they could not have been mistaken. Michelle had a normal day on April 21, 2016. She went to her classes, met friends, and shopped at Pitt Street Mall. CCTV footage then showed her purchasing a beverage and getting on a train at St. James Station at 4:30 p.m. That was the last time she was heard of alive. Her friends realized that she abruptly stopped responding to messages, and by morning, she had not arrived at class. Days went by, and there was silence on her phone. Her social media platforms, normally active, had no new updates. It wasn't until 4 days after, when her aunt had finally returned home from a vacation, that she was officially reported to police as missing. Then came the find that would shake Australia. A tourist who was hiking the rocky shores at Snapper Point, a pretty but treacherous place on the coast of New South Wales, spotted a body floating face down in the water. When the police arrived, they knew this was no accident. The woman was stabbed almost 40 times. She had a mortal wound to her neck, and she was naked, bearing obvious marks of a violent struggle. The investigators said the scene was one of the most brutal that they had ever seen. When DNA evidence revealed itself, it revealed that the victim was Michelle Leng. Her family and friends were devastated by the news. Yet more chilling was the killer's identity, her own uncle, Barrett, the same individual who assisted her in filing her missing person report. He was unemployed, 27 years old, and married to Michelle's aunt. Police found that Barrett became fixated on Michelle, secretly videotaping and photographing her within the house. He viewed her sleeping, taped her taking a shower, and dreamed about her for months prior to her death. On the day of her murder, it is believed by police that Michelle came home from shopping and was attacked by Barrett. There was no one in the house. He bound her, gagged her, and raped her in her bedroom. Michelle's cousin eventually returned home, not realizing that her cousin had been captured in the adjacent room, tied up and frightened. Police discovered macabre photographs on Barrett's phone of Michelle tied to her bed, her eyes frozen with terror. The terror she experienced before her death is unimaginable. Barrett killed Michelle in cold blood between April 21 and April 24. He then covered her body with plastic, went to Snapper Point, and pushed her off the cliff, the same location where Michelle had years before cheerfully taken snaps on a holiday. Her body was eventually discovered by accident, bobbing in the water. Barrett was arrested soon after the body was discovered and charged with murder. At his trial, he alleged that he had been taking drugs such as methamphetamine and synthetic cannabis and did not have any recollection of what occurred. But the court did not accept him. A forensic psychologist said Barrett did not exhibit genuine remorse and probably pretended to have memory loss in order to escape responsibility. Barrett pleaded guilty to murder and 21 other offenses such as indecent assault and recording Michelle for sex pleasure in December 2017. His behavior was called depraved and sadistic by the judge, terming it a crime of great wickedness. He was imprisoned for 46 years with a non-parole period of 34 years. But the tale didn't end there. In 2019, 3 years since his conviction, an old woman who lived several miles away from Derek's previous residence discovered a cryptic USB drive in her home. She had dementia and was unaware of how she came to possess it. When her daughter inserted it in a computer, what she observed prompted her to contact the police immediately. The USB held more than an hour of video where Derek raped and tortured Michelle while she was alive. In the videos, Michelle's hands had been wrapped so tightly that her fingers were purplish and swollen. At one point of sheer terror, Derek was heard muttering, "Now, where were we?" as he kept on attacking. The USB also held tapes of Derek monitoring Michelle and his stepdaughter when they were asleep or showering. The discovery opened up old wounds. The mother of Michelle was told about the videos and fainted in anguish. She told the press, "When the police informed me the video depicted the way in which my daughter was being tortured, a wave of faint instantly engulfed me. She was so heartbroken that her health collapsed and she soon died." Even though Derek was charged 17 additional times after the discovery of the USB, his sentence could not be lengthened. The law prohibited extra punishment because he had already been convicted. Still, the judge reported that if the evidence on the USB had been discovered sooner, Derek would have been sentenced to life in prison without parole. The Michelle Leng case is still among Australia's most disturbing real-life crimes, a tale of betrayal, obsession, and brutality that not only ruined Michelle's life but also her mother's. Michelle went to Australia to establish her dreams, make her mother proud, and gain a better future. What awaited her was a tragic end at the hands of one she considered family. Her tale is a tragic reminder that evil often lurks behind the most trusted faces. Justice was ultimately served, but for all who loved her, the wound will never heal. If you desire to find more jaw-dropping true-life cases and reveal the darker secrets behind the world's most sinister crimes, do not forget to subscribe to Netflix Crime Story. Here, we present you with actual cases, actual victims, and actual atrocities that the world attempted to erase. Do not forget to like, comment, and hit the notification bell so that you never miss another episode that delves into the darkest aspects of humanity.